First of all, I would like to ask if Dr. Riche is here to listen to his presentation. Maybe not. Then we have 15 minutes for discussion. You're welcome to ask questions to our participants, to Mr. Sanyi and Ms. Увалич. And I will just read one question from chat from Mr. Nikolic. Having in mind very uneven the pandemic economic effect, are you expecting some significant change of existing trends in the last 2 decades? For example, the IMF projects for Serbia to overcome a GDP per capita of Montenegro in 2025. Dr. Увалич.
Yes, I'll respond immediately. Of course, somehow I think it is way too early to make any type of forecast about future growth. I know that the latest projections and are quite positive regarding Serbia and also Montenegro. But somehow, you know, there's the second wave in both countries just about developing. And so I think all these forecasts are very risky. And even if Serbia was to have a much lower decline in its GDP next year, as is being projected right now, it will not be sufficient to actually make up for this very negative growth path that it has had in the past. So Serbia would really need to have very high growth rates for the next, I don't know, 5-10 years in order to be able to approach more the income level in the European Union. So I think short term, first the forecasts are really quite, I'm sure they will be updated in the future, as was happening with the global economic, at the time of the global economic crisis, when we had revisions of forecasts almost continually. The same is going to happen here. So I would not, of course, it would be great if Serbia was, I would be very pleased if Serbia was less hit by the crisis, and there are concrete reasons why Serbia may be less hit by the crisis, but it's not enough. It needs to keep up a high growth rate for the next 10 years in order to actually reduce this huge gap that has been created also during this last 10 years.
Okay, thank you. Dear guests and participants, do you have questions? Because I will ask questions to our participants, because we have time. One question to Dr. Увалич, one question to Dr. Sanyi. Dr. Увалич
has arrived. Has arrived.
Okay. Dr. Увалич, I would like to ask you about the Montenegrin case. It's very interesting to listen and to know that the convergence in income of Montenegro is going up, so we can speak about it. And but on the other hand, there's some theoretical background of the industrialization of Montenegro. Now, as you show us, 5% of manufacturing and GDP. That means nearly like in Oceania or in Africa. And theoretically, we could speak about the problem in the decrease of innovative and educational potential in 10-15 years, because hotels and restaurants will not bring you engineers or any improvement in skills. What do you think about the future? Does this exploitation of natural and climatic resources, like Montenegro is based on, will lead to a convergence in long-term future?
Well, you know, Montenegro is a very small country. It has a population of it's a very small country. It's a country that has already opened all chapters of the acquis in its negotiations with the EU. But it is clear that, and it's a country that finally also changed the political elite in power, which I think is positive, because you know, change at the political scene can only be welcome after so many years of having certain people heading the country. But you're absolutely right that somehow Montenegro also needs to think about some sectors it has totally neglected, like agriculture, for example. I mean, Montenegro is also a Mediterranean country, and somehow agriculture, as in the other countries, has not been given sufficient attention. This is one issue, and of course the educational reforms have also not brought best results. There was a big study done for the European Commission in 2016, analyzing, in fact, where I was also involved, analyzing the present state of educational reforms in all the Western Balkan countries, which clearly show how the educational system does not offer the type of graduates that are needed today on the labor market. So Montenegro also has a absence of workers in certain sectors and so on. So they're underneath, despite this convergence towards EU levels of income, Montenegro has many economic problems very similar to the other countries.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And my question to Mr. Sanyi, Dr. Sanyi, is about Romania. What is the place of Romania in your paradigm? I would say, what do you think? Does it have Ottoman Balkan legacy more, or based on some historical background, we can think about some heritage or legacy of Eastern European model, maybe Atlantic model? Because election geography shows us that some phantom borders still exist. Like Transylvania, Krishana, Maramuresh vote for one candidate of one party, Muntenia, Oltenia vote for completely another party. Thank you.
Yes, the current day borders are quite new in historical terms. So Poland, Romania, many other countries, historical development pattern was determined by such linkages which are not very easily visible today. So for Romania, I can perhaps quote a study that has been carried out for Poland. Poland has also been divided in 3 parts. And there was an empirical survey I also mentioned in my presentation that still today could identify certain differences between the 3 main parts of Poland. Such empirical surveys have not been carried out, to my knowledge, to Romania, but if somebody would do this, I'm sure there would be also similar differences could be discovered than in Poland. So yes, I would say that Transylvania and the 2 duchies, historically there were 2 Romanian duchies in the medieval times, and Transylvania, these are the 3 major constitutional elements of today's Romania. They are different, even today.
Okay.
And of course, their historic development pattern continued, actually. So the homogenization of current day Romania is still not complete, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dear guests, dear participants, you're welcome to ask your questions. We still have some time for discussion, so you're welcome.